What is up, everyone? I'm Skratch. Welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. Hope you guys are having an amazing day. Guys, it has been a very long time since I actually made a video like this. And I gotta say it, a lot of things changed. Power creep is out of this world. Is real, okay? If you had any doubts that the power creep doesn't exist or anything like that, think again, because it's absolutely real. In today's video, guys, I want to talk about the top 15 best nukers in Raid Shadow Legends for Arena. Regardless if we're talking about Classic Arena, Live Arena, Tag Team Arena, these nukers will be pretty much everywhere. And as I've mentioned, a lot of things changed since the last time when I made this video. Big changes, actually, because the list, even though it does share a couple of similarities, is pretty much completely changed, okay? And yes, we are going to, of course, bring in the mythicals. That's where the power creep actually happened. Now, I will try to more or less rank them from number 15 all the way to number 1. Of course, this is kind of like based on my personal opinion, how often I'm using the champions, and how good they are at countering some of the current metas, regardless if it's Classic Arena during Platinum Push or during a Live Arena match, right? So, some of you guys might think different. Please let me know in the comments down below. On number 15, in my opinion, guys, is going to be Harima. Yes, you've heard that right. Harima used to be at the very, very top. I think she dropped quite a lot, and that's mainly because the meta changed so freaking much. And while she's still a very powerful champion, being top 15 is some serious stuff. Don't think that she sucks because of it. She's an absolute freaking beast. But everything that she brings to the table is not as OP as what other champions can bring to the table. So her damage is still really good. She's still very strong versus Demon Spawn champions. She still has this amazing passive that will basically decrease the enemy ignore defense effects, which is really good. But other than that, I feel like in the current meta, it's really hard to kind of like make the most out of her. When I see her in Live Arena, for example, I'm not really seeing her in Classic Arena whatsoever. But in Live Arena, I'm not necessarily feeling as threatened as I used to feel 6 to 12 months ago when I used to see Harima, right? Because 12 months ago when you used to see Harima, you were like, oh my god, not again. She's crazy, right? She's still very powerful, but we have so many different counters and so many different ways on how we can actually counter champions like her, Stone Skin, and Polymorph, which is the main thing that I feel like it dropped some of these champions on the ranking list, in my opinion. Crazy damage. The activation of the A3 if you kill somebody is still really nice. If you lock her, it's pretty much GG's. And that's the same story for all of the legendary champions, right? So Harima is on number 15, in my opinion. Best build for her and most of these champions. Stone Skin plus Savage or Lethal, something like that. Nothing really changed in terms of that, right? Moving on to the next one. On number 14, guys. On number 14, we have Georgit. And yeah, a lot of you guys might be surprised by this as well, because Georgit literally used to be in top 5 as one of the best nukers in the game. He's still really strong. Even in PvE, if you have a 6-star crushing grind, you can do some crazy things with his A1. The main thing with Georgit is the passive, basically only having a 50% chance to ignore a 50% ignore 50% of the target's defense, which can create you a lot of RNG. The enemies are much tankier nowadays. They have crazier passives. So it's much harder for you to just take in a Georgit and absolutely obliterate the enemy team. Now, in Live Arena, if you have a very fast Shu Zan, it's still amazing because you're going to ignore that Stone Skin, and most likely it will give you an edge. But to be honest, I'm not really worried whatsoever when I'm seeing a Georgit in Live Arena. In Classic Arena, most likely he is being used less and less. There are plenty of different nukers that can provide you with a better win rate, to be honest. There are not as many teams that you can speed farm with Georgit nowadays. There's still a few, don't get me wrong, in the lower tier of Platinum Arena, but in the high-end arena, it's very hard to use Georgit nowadays and have a very good win rate, right? But he still deals a lot of damage, and the main thing with him, he's squishy. you do need some form of protection for him in live arena. Even in live arena, to be honest, let's just say I'm doing 50 fights. Probably from the 50 fights, maybe in 2 fights, I see Georgid out of 50. So he used to be definitely used more often in the past, but that's something that as well kind of like change. The meta evolves, and as I've mentioned, the power creep is at the next freaking level. So Georgit, still a very, very strong champion on number 14. Moving on to number 13, I'm actually going to put Sun Wukong instead of Georgit and Harima, and that's mainly because he brings so much utility, and I see him as a much bigger threat than Harima or Georgit. Why? Because he can polymorph, because he can steal buffs, he can deal crazy damage with this. He has this annoying passive. He has a speed aura for arena battles, which for live arena is actually massive because it's so hard to pick a lot of speed, a lot of champions that have a speed aura for arena, you know, or to have a good aura in general. And I do think that Wukong is a massive threat if you build him right. You can even build him as a debuffer rather than a damage dealer and gain massive value, right? But as a hybrid, I think he's definitely a massive, massive threat. Give him some accuracy as well. Make him as fast as you can. And trust me, the enemies will tremble when they see Sun Wukong. And that's mainly because of all of the utility he brings as well, right? That's why I really think that he is pretty damn powerful. Moving on to the next one, and this will 100% surprise you. I think this is number 12, if I'm not mistaken, right? And that is going to be Gurgo the Augur. He actually got a buff not a long time ago, and I'm absolutely loving this champion. For live arena, guys, I'm not sure how many of you guys are using him as much as I do, but he is an absolute freaking monster. Hands down, you can't change my mind, okay? Now, his base attack is not as crazy. He still has a massive issue, and that is very low base speed, which is something that I really dislike. But hey, he has a 30% speed aura for arena battles. And what I do like about him is the A2 removes all buffs, places a freeze, grants an extra turn, crazy good damage, extra hit on enemies under freeze, and lands a defense down. So the best build for a champion like Gurgo is, of course, having a pinpoint set on him as well. A 4-piece pinpoint. Now, up to you if you're going to go with Savage, you're going to go with Stone Skin, you're going to go with something else on the champion. But trust me when I'm telling you, he is an absolute freaking monster. A massive, massive threat. I am seeing him being used by quite a lot of other people as well in live arena. In classic arena, I'm not necessarily saying that, oh my god, he's going to be the GOAT, but he can be pretty nice as well, especially versus mythical champions. Even a champion like Nice, for example. If you're gonna smack him and the passive procs in, he still stays crowd controlled, you know, and the main thing is he is void affinity. Mine is not even built on Savage, and I honestly have absolutely no issues on demolishing enemies without even having Savage. So his multiplier is gonna increase as well. Very, very good damage, plus the passive, which can freeze the enemies if they actually attack. Really, really good. Massive threat in my opinion. So yeah, I do think he actually deserves a top spot. Moving on to the next one, guys, and this is going to be a champion that has been in the meta for a very long time. He's kind of like in and out, but he's still really powerful, and that is Rotos. Now, for Classic Arena, if you don't have a UDK in there, or if you don't have some other crazy things that could potentially stop him, he's going to demolish your entire team. Very good counter versus mythical champions as well, because he's not usually getting one shot. If you have the right blessing on him, Ward of the Fallen, right, and by any chance you have a shield as well, my god, you're not going to kill him with a triple hit sometimes. You know, it's just crazy how it interacts with that blessing and how good is he at staying alive, okay? This passive is nasty. Now, best build for him, I think, in my opinion, if you can, of course, is getting a 9-piece Merciless. He's going to go absolutely berserk, but that is very hard to actually get. I cannot build any of my champions on a 9-piece Merciless, and I've been completing the Curse series since the very beginning. It's just a lot of RNG and getting a lot of 5-star and a lot of bad pieces of gear from the Curse City. But Rotos, super powerful. I actually like him a lot versus Nice, for example, because Nice, when he metamorphs, right, he's gonna get that block damage on if he uses that skill. And it can be pretty annoying, especially with the counter attack. So having a Rotos to be able to go through that is actually really nice. Plus, he gets the HP down. Still a very powerful champion. Moving on to the next one. Time to bring in some of the juicy mythicals in here, guys. And this will be Alice. Alice, a very powerful champion. Crazy good damage, like 4 PvE. I absolutely love him. At the moment, I'm not even using him in Arena anymore because I don't want to change the builds all the time. So I'm kind of like using him mainly only in Chimera. But for Arena, especially Live Arena versus Nice, he's one of the only champions in the game that can absolutely wipe Nice before his passive even does anything. Because the first hit will kill him, the second will kill him on the second form instantly. So the animation just goes bang, bang, Nice is dead. And that makes Alice very strong. Now, he does have weaknesses because the main damage form can get locked. And if you go to the second form, if you metamorph with him, you're not really going to gain tons of value out of that form, right? But it is really nice. And he is the hardest hitting defense-based champion in the entire game. You have the block damage, you have the counter attack, you can provoke, the A1 dropping extra hits, stacking up defense, you know. Really good. Best build for him, Stone Skin plus Savage. Pretty standard, to be honest. Now, for PvE, I'm actually using him on a 6-piece Merciless set. Alice is a really strong champion, to be honest with you guys. Moving on to the next one, guys. And this is a free champion. It does take quite a bit of time to get him, but hey, free is free. And I am talking about Carnage the Anarch. He is being used in Live Arena a lot, in Classic Arena, by some people that know to play right and basically use some more interesting strategies versus some of the OP champions. He is an absolute GOAT. The main problem that I have with Carnage is basically the affinity. Spirit, we have a lot of strong magic champions in the game at the moment, and I feel like that kind of puts him at a bit of a disadvantage. But other than that, crazy good with both of the forms. He brings a 33% speed aura for Arena, which once again is going to be massive in Live Arena, sorry. Still all buffs. The A1 counterattacks is super annoying all the time. He has a chance to remove a random buff as well. This skill right here, block passive skills, block active skills, steals the thermometer, crazy good. Not to mention he has the highest base attack in the entire game at almost 2,000. This skill deals a lot of damage, even if you don't have tons of debuffs on the enemy to actually block the revive or anything like that. The passive will be coming in handy because you're going to get crit damage for the accuracy that you have on, and you're going to ignore defense for each debuff they have on, basically. So very powerful. Actually, this deals a lot of damage. A lot of the times, I'm not even using the first form on him. I'm just metamorphing and just basically nuking them down without having debuffs or anything like that. And to be honest, that's something that I don't really see a lot of people doing. Most of the people are really focused on his first form, which is not necessarily a bad thing whatsoever. He is a very strong champion. He did make the top 10, right? Moving on to the next one, guys. I really like this champion. Now, it is a bit more, in a way or another, kind of like part of a combo of a full team, right? And I'm really trying to stay away from bringing in champions that are really dependable of a full team. That's why Vulcanos, for example, who's an absolutely insane champion, I don't necessarily think he is going to make my top 15. He should be making the top 15, honestly. So I should be dropping somebody else to put Vulcanos in. I'm just not sure who I would drop out of the top 15. Probably we're going to make it a top 16, and we're going to skew it a little bit. But Vulcanos is another amazing champion. Mainly if you have a full team of demon spawns, right? So that's the main thing, because you can basically ignore Stone Skin, Unkillable, do tons of crazy things. If you have 2 demon spawn champions in the team, even like that, he's really strong because he can just melt enemies when they buff with HP burn. But it's very situational, right? So I'm not going to stick to talk about Vulcanos so much, because the next champion that I was gonna bring on the list after Carnage is actually Theox, Legare Theox. I feel like he is just so freaking crazy, guys. If you can build the Lizard team, I mean, my god, you don't even need to have a full Lizard team to worry about polymorph and stuff. You can go in with 3 Lizards, for example, and bring in a different champion like even an Armans or Stock, for example, right? And deal with Marichka teams. This skill is crazy good because he self-buffs no matter what, right? Extra hit on enemies under debuffs no matter what. Now, once you start bringing in Lizards, you're going to start doing more funky things. With 2, you're going to block the revive. And that's one of the main things that you're kind of like trying to achieve with him. Yes, he does suffer of the same thing as Carnage, Spirit Affinity. But to be honest, if you lock passives with Oramantu and then you go ham and you block the revive on the other champions, is not such a big issue anymore, right? And very good passive as well. The counter attack decreases the damage he receives. If you have a full team of lizards immune to sheep. So the main reason why I really wanted to bring him on the list is because there is one of the top teams in the game, right? The lizard team is one of the top ones. And even though I've mentioned I don't really want to bring in a lot of champions that are dependable of others, I feel like even without him being in a full lizard team, he's going to demolish you no matter what, right? So I feel like he deserves it. He stacks his own attack. This is basically his signature skill. Super, super powerful. Moving on to the next one, let's bring in another Lizard, because why not? And that is going to be Lazarius. Now, you can use this champion in 2 different ways, or maybe even 3 different ways, depending on what sort of gear you have available. You can go with the first form as a support champion, make him your turn meter booster. He has 115 base speed, which is really, really nice. He has a speed aura for arena, which once again is helpful. So if you can build him 400 plus speed, you can use him as a turn meter booster. Or you can use him as a hybrid. Mine is a hybrid, for example. So he is going to be my turn meter booster and damage dealer at the same time. And that's mainly because I have fairly decent gear and I was able to give him a pretty strong build, which I won't be sharing with you guys in today's video. But one day I might make a video on him and showcase the build, because I do think he's definitely a pretty nasty build. Not only that he boosts the turn meter, but he drops turn meter on the enemy. So you want to have a bit of accuracy on him. You're getting the increased attack. And if he gets locked, that's the main thing about him. Next to the whole part of the first form with the revive and everything else that he brings. Immunity, block buffs, strip buffs, etc. Which is crazy good. But the second form, guys. You kill an enemy, you're going to increase the cooldowns of their skills. You're going to get buffs at the beginning of the round or the beginning of the turn. Increase attack and increase crit damage. This ignores ally protection, strength, and shield. And steals 50% of the target's turn meter. Then you have the AoE attack, which ignores shield and increase defense. Once again, he's going to cleanse as well. He has so many good things in the kit, guys. Lazarius is absolutely freaking insane. And I feel like there is no day to play Raid Shadow Legends and don't use Lazarius. He's always being used. Same with Legare Theox, because I have my Lizard team that are just absolutely demolishing opponents. Moving on to the next one, guys. Now, I'll be very honest with you guys. This right here is a bit harder to kind of like decide. Okay, this is number 6. This is number 5. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Personally, I do think that on the 6th spot, in my opinion, is Taras, right? Taras is still a very powerful champion, mainly because he has the passives, hard to kill, deals very good damage as well. I don't really have to tell you, if you pair him with Marichka, even though I don't necessarily think he's a very popular combo, I was fighting actually today one of my clanmates in live arena, and he brought in the Tarichkas, and I was like, bro, I'm so not used to see Marichka and Taras together anymore. I lost the fight actually, but I was like, I'm so not used to see them together anymore. I don't know, like, I feel like not many people are using them together as often as in the past. Of course, that's normal. It's all a process, thanks to the power creep, right? But still a very strong champion. Now, 4 builds, you can build Taras on Pinpoint, and you can build him on a Savage or Savage plus Stone Skin. If you're building him for defense, yeah, Stone Skin is gonna be better. He's still a crazy good champion for Siege mode if you're going with a full Bannerlord team, you know, double Taras, maybe a Marichka, and you're gonna bring in the faction unity champion. You can do some crazy things. And even without, let's be honest, they're still really powerful, right? Like, Lazarius will struggle to kill Taras. A Georgit will struggle to kill Taras. Pretty much most of the champions that I've named before will struggle to kill Taras, except a champion like Carnage, a champion like Theox, to be honest. But he's an HP-based champion, much easier to keep alive and basically drop in big damage. The next one on the list, I do think that Narcissus as a nuker, especially offense-wise, is definitely much better. So, King Narcissus, why? Because he can block revive, he can gain an extra turn if you have Ancora. Even without Ancora, he's really, really powerful with the double hit right here. This skill is crazy, crazy good. He absolutely dumps on Taras and Siegfried and many other champions that have crazy passives, right? So I do think that Narcissus is a bit stronger, in my opinion, than Taras as a nuker in offense. Now, he doesn't have that crazy survivability. So I guess it's definitely subjective to what enemies you're fighting, etc. I can definitely see that. I do like that you can increase the cooldowns of the skills with the A1. And together with Ancora, they do dump hard on Marichka and Taras, to be honest. So I feel like he deserves it just because of that. Plus, he counters a lot of other passives. Moving on to the next one, guys. Geese freaking Mac. Geese Mac is absolutely insane. No surprise that he's gonna make top 5 without a problem, right? Not only that, now we don't have to worry so much about polymorph and all that, but to be honest, you don't even need him on Savage to deal crazy damage. Mine is not built on Savage. Mine is on Pinpoint and Stone Skin. And he does deal a lot of damage. I don't have a 6-star blessing on him, unfortunately. One day, hopefully, I'll get it. But he has a very good base speed, 115, very good stats. He instantly drops the HP burn without requiring accuracy if you have full crit rate on him. You don't necessarily need to metamorph. You can basically self-buff, gain the extra turn, melt the Stone Skin on all of them, drop the decreased speed on them, and have somebody else come in and wipe the enemies. Or, of course, if you're getting locked or anything like that, you can metamorph, drop a massive nuke with this one, especially if they have HP burn, right? He has very good passives too. Crazy good damage, especially with the extra hit. And extra turn. Either you're going to go and put a Pain Link, put Unkillable on himself, put Taunt, or you're going to go and basically try to nuke with the A1, which once again can wipe the rest of the champions if they're under burn. Crazy good damage. Overall, Gizmak is... I freaking love him, and I will admit it. Handcuff me, send me to prison. I was disappointed when I summoned him ages ago. And that's mainly because it was the whole situation with Polymorph, and I was sleeping on him. I did not realize he was dealing so much damage. So, Gizmak, I'm sorry, but I am freaking loving you for the last few months. I mean, probably the first week when I got him, I was like, oh no, why is it not one of the OP ones, you know? But you know what? He's actually really, really solid. Moving on to the top 3 guys, right? So this is pretty hard. In a way, I do think that Marius counters them both. So in a way, he kind of deserves the #1 spot as the best nuker. At the same time, I do think that it's much easier to kill him. So on number 3, we're gonna put Marius, but it's subjective. He can be #1 because he counters both of the other nukers. So Marius, a free champion that you can get from the missions, in freaking sane. I remember when I made a video when they announced the champion, and I said this champion is going to be huge for Arena. Now, even though a lot of people disagreed with me at that time, even me personally, I did not really imagine him being as strong as he is. I knew he was gonna be huge, but not as huge as he is, right? And he's a very simple champion. Triple hitter, enemy max HP, defense based, and this can actually do very good damage in Arena, even though you see the enemy max HP in there. Decreases the duration of buffs, which is one of the main things that makes Marius a massive threat. He self-buffs, gains the extra turn, he can stun, he is immune to turn meter manipulation effects and decreased speed, and he counterattacks. even when they metamorph as well, or when they try to deplete his star meter, and he has a chance to land Enfeeble. This is massive, and this counters all of the mythicals, basically. All of the champions that drop Thermiter or do anything crazy. Marius is probably the most used live arena champion in Gold 4. And if we're talking about classic arena, defense, offense, or whatever, he is pretty much in all of them, okay? He's super, super powerful. And yeah, I still don't have a 6-star blessing. Hopefully one day. Best build, Stone Skin, Savage, guys. You can't go wrong with it. Try to give him a bit of accuracy as well, because you do need accuracy to decrease the duration of buffs on the enemies, and land that Enfeeble, which is a massive, massive threat. Like, he dumps on Siegfried, he dumps on Nice, he dumps on pretty much any other champion in the game. He's that freaking powerful. And hey, you can get him for free if you are working hard on getting those missions done. Moving on to the next one, guys. So here, I do think that we're gonna have to leave the highest damage in the game for the first place. So I'm gonna go with Nice. This is a champion that personally I did underestimate when they released him. I feel like everybody did. Very powerful champion. The first form is pretty good. He's not necessarily the best thing on his kit. He can block revive. He can basically do a nice AoE attack, which will not trigger counterattacks. He has a pretty nice passive. But what makes this champion crazy, guys, offense and defense, live arena, you guys name it, is the second form. Now, this passive is just crazy because it will increase the stats on the champion for every dead enemy and ally, which is massive. He's going to gain tons and tons of stats. On top of it, he can cleanse himself, put counterattack and block damage that cannot be stolen or transferred, which is massive. And this skill hits so freaking hard that it gives me a headache every time I find this champion in live arena, okay? Absolutely insane. So if you have a Nice and you're complaining that he sucks, think again, because you have no idea what powerhouse you have in your roster. Absolutely freaking insane, and I cannot wait to summon him. The A1 can deal pretty good damage as well. Like, he is just such a big threat, guys. He's part of pretty much all of the top defense teams in Classic Arena during Platinum Push. If you have him, you're gonna pick him in Live Arena because he's that freaking good. And moving on to the last one. The reason why I kept him as the #1 nuker is because he deals the craziest damage, and he can just completely wipe your entire team, even if they have Stone Skin. In PvE, he's massive, so I feel like he does deserve that title, and that is Siegfried. This skill is just so freaking powerful that if I have basically Stone Skin on my champions, and if the enemy breaks the Stone Skin on one of the champions, or let's just say I have Stone Skin on 3 of the champions, and he's gonna get buffed with increased attack, and he's using this skill on one champion, like a Wukong, for example, the splash damage has the potential to wipe my entire team. If it's no Harima in there or some crazy super tanky champions, he's going to wipe them through Stone Skin. That's how crazy this skill is. Plus, this is a good AoE as well. He has the crazy good passive that helps to keep him alive. But then, of course, Marius takes a dump on this as well, because he activates it, he removes the block damage, and then he might wipe him. Most of the times, he does stay alive. Best build for Siegfried, to be honest with you guys, either you go with Stone Skin and Swift Parry, Stone Skin and some form of an immunity to make sure that if they are using some crazy teams like a Lizard team versus him, they're not going to be able to melt his Stone Skin, so they're not going to lock his passive and wipe him. Plus, of course, he metamorphs. This is the only mythical that metamorphs on his own command, basically, and brings in basically the support form, which is really helpful as well. But that is pretty much everything, guys. Top 15, 16 with Vulcanos, best nukers in Raid Shadow Legends. Now, there are tons of different champions that I haven't named. I don't necessarily think they will cut it in top 15, but of course that is based on my personal experience and opinion. Let me know if you guys disagree or agree with any of these champions. And as usual, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. The power creep is real. Much love. Appreciate all of you guys watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.